Bringing Down Security, and I am Brian Bragg. Welcome back, listener. This is Ms. Berlin, also known as Sleepy Smurf, and Mr. Betcher for Bringing Down Security.
What's up?
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, it's a little late tonight on Saturday 11th here when we're
I'm
recording.
gonna pretend to be chipper.
You're gonna pretend to be chipper. Well, what time is it for you? It's like
It is 11 o'clock.
Oh gods, well,
at night.
You're the one who said, "Oh, don't worry. After I put my spawn to bed, I'm up all night, whatever."
Well, I don't have them this weekend, so I just sleep the whole weekend.
I see. Okay, yeah. Before we started, she's like, "We better get this started. I'm about to fall asleep." So she's dying. She took her melatonin before she started here, so now we're all like,
I even had coffee this morning.
Really?
Yeah. I never have coffee.
I love me some coffee. I got back into it when I moved up here to Seattle.
Well, that makes sense.
Well, yeah. I used to be a tea fan, but yeah. All right. Mr. Betcher, how's things going with you? You were telling me some interesting stories about the malwares.
Yeah, getting some good malware captured at the old workies.
I want you to briefly recap the story you told me, because I had Max lulls when you were telling me that story. Please, Please, sir, please.
Okay. Let's see. It all started. Now, it wasn't a targeted attack. We found out later because one of our employees had gotten it from a friend that was unrelated to business. So it was happenstance that we found it, and or that she had gotten it on her computer. So totally unrelated to business, but it was a pretty cool piece of malware nonetheless. It was an executable that was disguised as a PDF. When you open it, or when you double click the executable, it actually does open a document. I mean, the document is embedded inside the file. It calls Adobe Reader, provided you have it on your machine, and actually brings up a document. So you think you double clicked a document and opened it up, but actually it created some persistence and actually added some ability for the hackers to view your screen and actually control your screen.
Yeah.
So I was, I executed the malware. I ran LogMD, was looking through some reports, but I got distracted and I started doing other work on my work computer, and I have several screens at work. And then all of a sudden I notice things happening on my other screen, and I'm like, what? And so the malwarian is sitting there looking at my LogMD reports and going, "Oh, that's not good." So they're highlighting cells and deleting the cells, right? And then they're saving a blank document on top of what was there. And I'm like, okay, that's a weird way of deleting files. And so eventually they started like looking at the directory where all my reports were, and they would highlight the entire directory and right click it and, delete it. And then they would go to the trash can and empty the recycle bin and stuff. It was really funny to watch the guy. And,
well, it could be a lady too. Let's be equal opportunity here. There are ladies.
Okay.
More than likely it wasn't.
And it was pretty interesting. I'm like, dude, these are in the logs. I could just generate all those reports in a few seconds.
Right.
It was really funny.
You need to change the background on the windows to say this is a sandbox or something, because he probably would have, crapped his pants for you to realize that he'd been found out playing around on the desktop or whatever.
Right. I kind of ruined his day, I guess, because at first I usually upload the hashes to VirusTotal to see if VirusTotal knows about it, and it was not uploaded. Nobody uploaded it yet, so it was unknown at the time. So
you could open up a notepad and
I went ahead and uploaded it when I was done with that. Yeah, I should have opened up Notepad and said hello, things like that. But I
get you, sucker.
My name's Brian. Who are you?
Oh, that's funny.
But I didn't want to poke the tiger, you know?
Yeah.
And because that kind of presents itself a challenge, like, hey, this guy really knows about me and all this stuff, and I'm gonna try my best, that make my lifelong goal to get the best of this guy. But no, I don't like to do that, just because I want to keep my company safe, right?
Yeah.
But it was really interesting.
So were you able to glean from the logs what was being pulled back, or what was open? Because obviously it was some kind of tunnel, right? Reaching back.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find out the CNC?
It was a standalone executable still running, and that was the actual malware, and that was what persisted. So he packaged it all, and I think he used Visual Basics, I think, to create the malware. At least I saw some hints of that. And this was a Friday afternoon, so I didn't have that much time to really dive into it. But and of course, I had a lot of other work to do.
Yeah.
But it was kind of neat.
Okay.
It's just the kind of the things you see. It's one of those that was all packaged into one thing. Didn't have to download something.
Yeah.
And it was really pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty. I love that. So that's it's never a dull moment when you work, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so our podcast this week, we're going to be delving into. We don't normally do news of the week, but I think this is something that we need to talk about, because if you've not been following anything ever anywhere, there was this. Wikileaks came out with some of the stuff from the CIA hacking. They called it Vault7, affectionately or inaffectionately known. And some of the stuff has been posted from this cache if you're foreign, non-US, of this bunch of data that was found from a CIA wiki in this case. Apparently it was an Atlassian wiki, Jira, not Jira. Jira is a ticketing system. Whatever Atlassian calls their wiki.
Right.
Confluence, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So this was gleaned from a wiki, apparently on classified CIA servers. And one of the interesting things I find with anything secret is that I went through a lot of this because I was required to, because I don't have clearance. And one, I think that we should know what's out there, because the bad guys are going to look at this stuff. The good guys should probably be looking at it too, to know what they might be up against from the bad guys. I know Mr. Betcher looked at some of it too, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Were you required to, or did you just have some idle curiosity?
Idle curiosity.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working on LogMD, so it's good to know these things. Especially, for example, I'm working on auto runs for LogMD, which is going to be really awesome, by the way. And I wanted to see what kind of methods of persistence were there in the data dump. So I was checking them out, and really nothing that's shocking there.
Yeah.
Or no revelations that I saw in that particular, subject matter.
Yeah. Yeah. When I worked as a government contractor and a government civilian, I was in the Navy. I had a clearance, and people, felt bad, and they warned you, like the security people were like, oh, don't look at that stuff because it's secret and whatever. I don't know if it's this way with every leak on WikiLeaks, but I didn't find anything of note that was like out of the ordinary, like, ooh, yeah, that's like uber bad or whatever. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we that I found was not really like considered O-Day worthy. A lot of the stuff was just like stuff that already known by malware people or being used by malware. I don't know what type of it just didn't seem like it was that noteworthy for me. I mean, some of the revelations they talked about with smart TVs and stuff was interesting, but it wasn't awful. I mean, we know IoT sucks.
Yeah. The documents. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't one that I haven't seen. I didn't see any.
Yeah.
Right, but I didn't dive through every page, and it says that there's. Let's just assume there's 5,000 pages, but most of the pages have old pages
Right.
with them, like, oh, this is the prior version of this particular page, and you look at the prior version, it was like an empty shell or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's actually 5,000 pages or if it's 500 pages with each one having 10 prior versions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what did you think about what you looked at so far, Miss Amanda? Did you have a massive look at it, or are you trying to stay?
I didn't look at a whole lot of it. I spent, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes just poking around, seeing what I could find. I just downloaded the whole thing with wget, and I looked at some of the pictures.
Yeah. I read the blog that was on the Wikileaks page that tried to explain it, which I think a lot of the reporters just went that further and didn't go any further. He was talking. I don't know who wrote that blog post, if it was Assange or one of the other toadies over at Wikileaks, but they were talking about how the CIA hoarded vulnerabilities and or cyber weapons as they call them, and I don't think the CIA hoards them, much like other companies that do security research. They don't hoard them; they just sit on them because one, they're either trying to make money or they have to do work themselves, which requires them to be able to infiltrate things. I know, like if you're doing operations, you have to have tools to be able to get in to look at bad people, and depending on who you are, your definition of bad people is different, but mostly CIA works on foreign type agent or assets or people or things, and they have
the whole concept of the CIA. That's what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, they need to have tools that allow them to do things, so if you did go through this, you do find various processes or various tools that they suggest, but all of this stuff is mostly open source or has, already been used in the real world, which I found interesting. And then, of course, as the week went on, there was other reports talking, like the RAND report, talking about stockpiling vulnerabilities is a good thing, which I found interesting. They said, on the other hand, publicly disclosing a vulnerability that isn't known by one's adversaries gives them, I would assume, gives the adversaries the upper hand, because the adversary could then protect against any attack using that vulnerability while still keeping an inventory of vulnerabilities of which only it's aware. So, if you...
Although if you look at it that way, nobody's good at defense. So yeah. even if they do publish the vulnerabilities, who on the adversary side is actually going to go and patch against them?
Yeah, it's like the people who, defense doesn't have like defensive O days or something sitting out there that they can, help defend against attackers. That just doesn't exist. It's called patches, which we have to wait for the vendors to come out with a patch or, an open source, group to create such a patch. Yeah, great. Thank you. So, there's so many, obviously if you want to play the political racket with it, there's that, but I am very much exhausted with the whole political thing. So we're just trying to stick to whatever facts are available right now. And to be honest, we're waiting to see if our interview that we're going to have is going to be on too. So,
we got him out of bed. It's super important.
Yeah.
That he's coming on.
Oh.
So.
Yeah. Oh. Oh my goodness.
Oh snap.
As we live and breathe. Oh my goodness.
You're muted, Dave.
Yeah. Very nice. He's still muted.
There we go. Hey, how's it going?
Yes.
Oh,
Dave, what's going on?
Doing good. Okay, so the dulcet tones you're hearing right now, we started a little early. We started without you, but it's cool. You come to the party fashionably late. It's all right. Thank you for joining us.
By the way.
Oh yeah, it's just this whole thing. Please. Yeah, I couldn't.
I wear this all the time.
They went and changed. I wasn't gonna.
I didn't see that. I knew we had this scheduled, and I didn't see anything pop up. So I was actually like laying in bed with like a tank top on. So I'm like, oh, you got to put your shirt on.
Crap.
We're good.
Yeah.
Nobody else sees the video. You could have just left the tank top on.
Oh, no one sees the video?
No, we don't do video. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right.
We're not high tech.
It's just for
like
us.
That. So this is Dave Kinsey. You may know him from such newscasts as Fox Business News. You weren't on there recently, but you were doing the media circuit this week, right?
Yeah. I was on Fox Business this week, and I think BBC and a few other ones.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, good. I like the BBC. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So we are talking about the WikiLeaks stuff. We're trying to keep it non-political. Obviously, because we don't do political, and we're exhausted from the whole political thing. So, before we brought you in, we were talking about how I read the blog, manifesto or whatever you want to call it before, and they were talking about how the CIA hoarded vulnerabilities and cyber weapons, and I'm thinking the CIA has to have tools to be able to do their job. That was the idea. So, I mean, do you believe that they should be quote unquote hoarding these, or do you think they should have shared these out with manufacturers when they got them?
Well, I personally believe that they should be hoarding them. I don't think it's any surprise that the CIA actually conducts espionage and offensive operations. What?
You do?
What?
They're spies? The CIA?
Yeah, I know, the spies. Do you believe it? Like, I didn't even know that existed in this country. The NSA, how do they collect intelligence abroad?
Yeah. Well, historically, CIA has always been on foreign soil doing whatever they're clandestine operations, and the FBI is domestic, and the NSA is kind of in a gray area.
Well, yeah. Their primary goal is intelligence gathering, right? Any type of intelligence, planning implants and things like that to be able to survey other countries, and not supposed to be tapping internally here in the United States, right?
Yes. And, the idea is depending on who the bad guys are, if you're, against the government as it is or whatever, the CIA is going to be a bad guy. And they, people who are paranoid believe that they might be using those against them. But the idea is if they don't have any kind of tools, they can't do their job. And I know you went through quite a bit of this obviously for media purposes. We're not media, we're just a podcast. But did you find anything shocking or of note in this that really is surprising?
Yes and no. For one, I would expect code to get burned, right? That's pretty standard. I would say, hey, 0 days getting burned, things like that. That's part of it. They can rewrite code. But I think the damaging part about the whole thing was all of the playbooks that got exposed, which basically outlines how the CIA conducts, cyber operations. I hate using that word cyber, but I'm going to use it. So using cyber operations abroad. It explained the cryptography that they use, cryptography that's still safe. How they go and do implants, how they evade detection. And then it went into a lot of their different programs and how the programs are built, such as Weeping Angel, Umbridge, which is a part of the CIA used for identifying other adversaries and possibly mimicking other adversaries when they're attacking. So it went through a lot of capabilities that I think are really damaging for the CIA, but nothing surprising. In fact, I would even say that the CIA is less sophisticated than I would have thought, to put it in a little term. I suppose the NSA, is where we kind of keep a lot of that at, but some of the tools there were NSA specific, probably being on loan from the NSA to the CIA.
Yeah.
But it kind of shows you they're a little bit antiquated in a lot of cases and didn't have a lot of the capabilities I thought they would have.
Yeah, like some of the iOS and exfiltration of iOS devices was up to iOS 9, but they didn't have anything for iOS 10. Is that because of Apple making some changes from previous, just being updated to the newest version? They haven't gotten, foothold into that yet?
I just think you see iOS continues to increase the game, and it becomes harder and harder to get into it. And when these exploits are released, Apple looks at that and says, okay, how do we make that even better? And it continues to move forward. So Android, I think they had 26 Android exploits. Yeah. But I think we kind of expect that. But it's something where you look at their capabilities. They didn't have a ton of 0 days going after traditional operating systems such as Apple and Microsoft, which we would have thought you would have seen a lot more of those on. But again, this could be a small repository of a larger one. We don't know. Based on that documentation, the hacking group, I guess, within the CIA, so reportedly around 5,000 people. You look at the comments and the analysis around that, there's nowhere near 5,000 people on that internet site. So you'd hope that there's a lot more capabilities that the CIA has that wasn't leaked.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just like for their help desk level people.
It could be. Absolutely could be, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of unclassified stuff in there too. I mean, techniques that are public, techniques that researchers have done. I mean, so I don't really see it being significantly catastrophic except for the playbooks out there. But I thought what was interesting was Assange. He said he wasn't going to release the exploits of the code and work with the manufacturers to actually go and fix that. So that's actually one positive note that I would say came out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if that surprises me or not. Like it kind of does.
Do you think
But
he'll
he would
hit
do that.
manufacturers that have bug bounty programs first to help fund
yeah.
WikiLeaks?
Of course. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
My personal opinion is that most of this is probably coming from, this probably came from a contractor, which is what they're assuming for doing investigation contractors, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the information that was released during the DNC timeframes, with the shadow brokers and everybody else, the Equation Group, it looked like it was coming from Russia, and that WikiLeaks was kind of a puppet in all of this. And so, is this Assange's way of coming back from it and saying, hey, we're not a puppet. We're going to release this responsibly. And we do have the best interests out there, which I don't believe in any shape or form for 1 minute, but, maybe a way of trying to save face for the whole Russian BS.
Yeah. Yeah. So the media did a lot of, FUD. They were trying to say that things like Telegram and secure messaging systems were broken when in fact it looked like the CIA was just developing tools that would grab things before it actually started getting encrypted. So they would, bug the microphone subsystems, or they would, bug the keyboard subsystems so that it wouldn't get encrypted and get sent out over plain text before it went into actual Telegram system. Did I read that wrong?
No, it's absolutely right. And it's actually funny because I made a tweet, and Twitter's only, you can only do 144 characters or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had tweeted, something to the fact of like, hey, because WikiLeaks actually had a blurb that said, Signal, WhatsApp, Telegram, all of them, the CIA had access to. So I tweeted that. And then my very next tweet was, hey, everything's still safe. It's their endpoint compromises. But people only saw that prior tweet, and they're like, what? And the whole world started blowing up. I'm like, no, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. I must have responded to about 50 people about that one, but no, everything looks like it's safe. The encryption is good. There doesn't seem to be any signs of that. End-to-end encryption, AES, they said is still good. So, I mean, no, you're absolutely reading that right. And there was also some FUD out there too around the smart TVs, where they're saying, the CIA can remotely hack into your smart TVs and turn them on with the Weeping Angel program. It turns out they needed physical access, with a USB in order to upload the code. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And talk about, did you read about the car hacking that was in WikiLeaks and reported? Did you find anything interesting in that?
Well, from what I read, it was still very exploratory, where they were trying to be able to look at smart cars and, or any cars in specific, and basically conduct assassinations that would be, undetected, for lack of a better term. So
Sure.
Being able to hide code inside the cars and take control of them, getting into the CAN network and being able to manipulate traffic over that. But I still think that it required physical access to the actual cars in order to do it. And it was still very exploratory, but I could be wrong on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Some of the techniques I found interesting. Do you think that okay. So I used to have a clearance, probably not as high as what you used to have when you're in the Marine Corps, sir. But I find that there was a lot of stuff in there that doesn't necessarily needed to be classified. There was some documents I read in there about how you should obfuscate code that you're building or whatever, and it was like secret, no foreign, and I'm like, that's not classified. I can read that over here on the regular internet. Or, they were talking about process hollowing, and I'm like, oh man, that must be some kind of big thing. And I was like, well, let me go look on Google, because one of the things I'm doing is I'm doing a talk for ISSA Rainier up here to talk about this stuff and how blue teamers can protect themselves, which we'll talk about later. But I was like, well, okay, in case some of these folks are military or DoD contractors, I want to make sure that we can actually talk about this stuff without them fearing for their jobs or their safety. And like process hollowing is something I found on the attack on MITRE's website. So a lot of this stuff is not classified, but I guess just because that it's in a secret wiki, it has to be labeled secret.
Well, there was some unclassified things there that were called unclassified, right? But I mean, I think some of those are like capabilities that, if you take something that's public and you pair it with, the CIA performing that attack or that type of attack or knowing about that specific type of attack, then that becomes secret based off of capabilities. That's typically how you would view that. Top secret would be something that is actively developed, that they want to protect, and it maybe has a specific designation or classification within top secret. So why it would be no foreign, I don't know about that. Maybe they want to keep capabilities within the CIA to no foreign operations, but and a lot of times it goes over classification to be safe than sorry in a lot of cases. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that should have been classified. Like you look at a lot of the WMI persistence methods, like that was all public stuff. A lot of sub-T's research around Reg SVR32 application whitelisting bypasses. That was in there and marked classified. So there's just a lot of stuff in there that was really just public research that And again, I mean, I think it goes back to I was really kind of disappointed. I thought it was going to be a lot more juicy.
Yeah. So I've never actually looked at these things before because I didn't make it my business to get onto WikiLeaks and look at this. Are all of the data dumps very similar to this, where it's like all fluff and elevated by the media is, oh my God, WikiLeaks has got more stuff, and then it really comes to nothing? Or are they all like this, or are there actually some really good meat on the WikiLeaks site?
Most of the stuff is very political, not necessarily around like cyber operations or offensive techniques. But you saw and this wasn't through WikiLeaks, but you saw what happened with like the shadow brokers and Equation Group, where they actually had direct source code for like Cisco Pixes and a lot of old code, but it was still very damaging in how they were able to get around a lot of those perimeter devices. But no, WikiLeaks is typically not like that, right? Usually they link to a lot of classified documents. We saw with like Snowden releases where it's just more of like PowerPoint presentations, not necessarily code or anything like that. And that's actually a lot more damaging than not, because a lot of the PowerPoint presentations that you see, makes you think that, if you read one PowerPoint slide, but you don't know the context behind it, it makes it look like, the NSA is like this big bad, organization that's spying on all American citizens in the world, where, it's very targeted in nature in a lot of cases towards people that, necessarily adversaries to the country. So, it's rough because you only get a small fraction of it. And same thing in this dump too. They didn't release any of the code, so we don't get to see how expansive these programs are, or anything like that. So I don't know. It was kind of weak. And the interpretation from WikiLeaks was really weak. How they wrote what was going on was hyperbole in a lot of cases to really amplify what was going on. So that's
Is it a breadcrumb kind of thing where it's like, you may have some stuff already, and this could actually help confirm that some of the things that happened, versus like malware. Let's say you got a malware infection, like, oh, okay, so obviously we got infected by this, big, our friend in Comrade Russia, is, figuring these things out, and they could actually use this to help attribute certain attacks.
Absolutely. 100%. And very, very much the same way that we did the public disclosures around Grizzly Step, around, all the different indicators for Russia and attributing that back to a number of other places. And it's interesting. It's just, what I found really comical is that if you look at the Umbrage program, which, was supposed to be for understanding adversaries and their footprints and being able to understand the tools and the code that they use. But a part of that, WikiLeaks had reported, and I couldn't find this in anywhere in the documentation, but that Umbrage is also used to pretend to be other countries when you're infiltrating other countries, so that you can make it look like you're coming from Russia or China or other places. Sure. And so people are taking that with like, oh, hey, it must have not have been the Russians for the DNC hack. It could have been the CIA doing it, right? And so all these conspiracy theories now coming out, which are absolutely ridiculous with no evidence or proof whatsoever. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, conspiracy theorists don't need proof.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But again, everybody's hacking everybody, and we all in the security industry know that attribution is damn near impossible.
I think
especially given that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can say, hey, it looks like this, but actually getting to an individual people is very difficult unless you've been surveying them for like 6 months. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Yeah. Attribution is near impossible.
Yep. So one of the other things I noticed was they were doing like ways to evade sandbox detection. Like mouse clicks. Like some sandboxes don't notice mouse clicks, or it doesn't emulate mouse clicks properly. Is that something that's been public knowledge? Or obviously, if you're analyzing malware like Mr. Betcher does on a regular basis, having a sandbox that actually does things properly, and if you can evade that sandbox or that detection, have that detection mechanism, that must make it more difficult to analyze your malware. Yeah,
there's a number of bypasses out there. I believe the mouse click ones are public. It's all about getting, so the clicking mouse ones requires human interaction, right? So having to open and emulate humans, and that's the same thing in a lot of these sandboxes try to do, but they'll open it up and see if it'll actually execute macros and things like that. But you can do a number of techniques. Like you can say, hey, is my CPU core greater than 2? And if it isn't, then just stop from running and don't execute the code, which circumvents a lot of those. So a lot of those bypass techniques are pretty well available. I didn't think anything new on that front.
Yeah. Okay.
Crafty.
Yep.
Well, you can use the WMI auto run in there as well. Just wait a certain amount of time. Sandboxes usually don't wait, right?
Yep.
That's right.
I've seen the ping -N250 just to try and evade sandboxes that way in a lot of the malware I have. And of course, the WMI like time bomb works as well.
Yep. So I know you were in bed trying to go to sleep, sir. You probably got a busy day tomorrow. Miss Amanda's about to turn into a pumpkin herself because y'all are on the East Coast. Let's cut to the chase. So blue teamers who are seeing and hearing about this stuff, what is it things that should not, that should keep them up at night, and what should they do can they protect themselves against these things, or is it just carry on business as usual and hope for patches and not get owned?
Well, I think, one thing to note is that the CIA doesn't target internally, right? They go after adversaries. And people can make the argument, well, hey, what's checking their power and their balance? And believe me, there's a lot of checks and balances in place to ensure that, these groups don't go internal to other folks. So I don't think there's a lot of risk there. One thing I will say is that we absolutely have to have these capabilities because our adversaries do as well. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, Syria, Syria to a lesser extent, I suppose. But, all these countries are developing these techniques and, developing code, and just have researchers doing zero-day research all the time developing this stuff. And so we have to have the same capabilities to even play in this space. It's not about having the largest military anymore. It's about having the best hackers out there. And that's really what this is about. So, if you're afraid that our country has that, you were really in a small, tiny box that you don't see the rest of the world for what it is. There's a lot of real bad people out there. And I don't want to use fear as a method for that, but we need to defend ourselves against it. So for people that want to defend, I still say the same techniques work. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of I think it's a legacy term from SANS, but the defense in depth strategy of multiple defenses, network segmentation and application whitelisting and known good and building out detection capabilities, doing a lot of stuff that we talk about. It does work. If you look at the CI documents, a lot of those would have prohibited the attacks from happening.
Yeah, cool. So
I have a really good book that helps out with that stuff too that I can mention later on.
Oh yeah, wow.
Is that right?
So
no, I mean it all starts with like step one. You mentioned SANS inventory, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't know that Bob took his old desktop, stuck it on the floor of the server room, and hooked it up to the internet so he could change his admin password or whatever. I mean, the CIA dump is the last thing you have to worry about.
Absolutely.
So we shouldn't be going and grabbing a drill and modifying the TV in our conference rooms to get rid of the cameras or the microphones inside of them then?
Well, I made a joke, but it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen next year at RSA. There's going to be like 500 companies talking about like firewalls for your smart TVs and code, then antivirus for your smart TVs. It's going to effing happen.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be handing out the little camera things
for your smart TVs. And it's like, hey, here's a safe smart TV plug that, prohibits it from going out to the internet. And,
I'll just use my 18 volt Bosch with my 3/4 inch drill bit and make it a thing. So okay. So the TV thing may be a little paranoid. What about people bringing like IoT devices to work? If you're using an Alexa or something, should we be worried about that in the workplace about IoT devices being brought in or smart devices?
Yes, but not to the full extent of our end users. Trust me, our end users are still our number one problem. Our perimeter is probably our number 2 second problem, right?
Mhm.
IoT is probably on the list of risks. I would say far, far, far back there, but it's definitely still a risk. You can definitely target those devices. You can definitely use them, especially when you start talking about PLC and SCADA infrastructure. I mean, process controllers, you can manipulate them in ways that you can literally stay undetected on the network for large periods of time. So yes, they are a risk. We see them, being attacked here and there. But
in what percentage of organizations and environments that you're in are those the weakest point?
You usually never. I mean, usually there's so many glaring other holes there that the IoT devices are last on the list to go after. Yeah. But I mean, you have manufacturing, right? Manufacturing, I would say, is a big target from an intellectual property perspective, where the build designs and how they architect things and chemical compounds and process formulas and all that stuff, is super, super valuable to other countries that are trying to steal IP. So the environments there may be something where they specifically target it, but it's really based off of the industry verticals that you're in. So I would say, like, I wouldn't go after, personally as a hacker, I wouldn't go after Alexa or a Nest or something like that, because there's so many other things going on over there. In fact, my Alexa just went off right there.
Nope. Alexa, buy me 50 pounds of lube.
Yeah, turning it off. It's off. I muted it. It would have did it too, because I've already previously ordered 55 gallons of lube. So it would have ordered it.
Darn it!
It would have sent it to Milton again. It would have went to the home of record address, and it would have sent another 55 gallon drum.
Nice. I saw that on XKCD this week, and I died. I was just dying. People walking.
We were this close.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Gallons of drum. Milton.
Cancel.
Oh, cancel.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to. I think the WikiLeaks thing has been done to death, but I wanted to get your insights about it from a blue team, because there's a lot of FUD going on out there, and I appreciate you taking the time to do so. Before we move on to one other thing I wanted to discuss, does anybody else have any other questions or thoughts or concerns? Mr. Betcher.
Nope.
Well, let's move on. I've got some other things to say, but yeah.
Yes,
not that
we'll
important.
say them quickly.
Well, okay. So looking at the entire wiki documentation on the CIA, it seems kind of not very professional. I don't know how to put it, like almost juvenile to have it, or not that advanced to have all this stuff on this little wiki page, right? It doesn't seem that professional, like I would expect the CIA to have, right? Do you guys agree?
Well, when you say professional, you talking about like the comments and things that were there?
Like just a simple wiki with all these techniques, or here's what we do in this situation. We use this tool, or what, and just little blurbs of documentation on each one, not really detailed, not really formalized, that kind of thing.
I think if you look at how the CIA has always been structured as more of an espionage type of organization, I would say that it's been pretty loose as far as what they can do, and probably their capabilities. NSA, very formal, very rigorous chain of command, very military centric in a lot of cases. CIA is kind of like the cloak and daggers folks that don't necessarily build the same types of capabilities or have the coders and things like that. So, I mean, I guess I would expect it to be kind of informal. Now, I would have hoped that it would have been much more advanced than what we had saw. I mean, and I'm not saying that they don't have some talented folks there. They definitely have some talented folks there that are amazing. It's just I would have expected more for sure. But it doesn't surprise me because of how the organization's structured, how it's created, and how they operate as an organization. So I would say, the NSA stuff where, we saw, extra bacon, that's exactly what I would expect from the NSA, back in that, that was in 2013 or 2012, right? That's the type of stuff that you'd expect for the CIA. Not as much. I would have expected more automated things of going after people to overthrow governments and intelligence gathering for that. But I maybe we can do that part of it,
I mean, it almost seems like it looks like a startup mentality, not a formal, like we have these set processes, and when we create documentation, it has to be looking like this formally. right?
Well, to be fair, it was a Jira wiki, a Confluence type wiki thing, and it had to be copy and pasted from the documents that he got and put into WikiLeaks' format. So, and of course, they heavily redacted a bunch of stuff. They, only put in things they thought was pertinent, or and there's still a ton of stuff left. So, I mean, we, from what I understand and from what he said or has said, that there's going to be more that's coming out, but. I mean, there might have been some stuff that he didn't want to share, so it was redacted. There were several, directories that didn't have anything in them because obviously they hadn't released that stuff yet.
Yep.
So, okay. So, you're still on the board for ISC2, yes?
I am.
Cool.
I am.
And I was just wondering if you could give us an update for all the CISSPs and the healthcare weasels out there. Any new updates or initiatives or anything that's been started in the last 6 or 8 months?
Lots, actually. Lots. So we just had our first Q1 board meeting about a few months ago. We're actually going to have our second one here coming up. So this last quarter, there's all new board members. So a lot of them had been, had left, and then there's kind of the process around like onboarding new board members and things like that. So new committees and all this other stuff. So I'm co-chair of the strategy committee, and I'm also on the ethics committee as well. And so there's a lot of big initiatives. There's what's called the DEEP project, the Digital End-to-End Strategy, which is ISC2's web infrastructure. Let me guess. You can answer this question. When was the last time you logged into the ISC2 web portal?
I log in every day. It's on my list of things. I love it. It's a fantastic website resource for people. It's great.
You sit down. You do that before you check your email.
That's right.
Whenever I have
in the morning.
Whenever you have to renew, you log in, you renew. And
when I submit my CPEs, I'm on there probably once a month.
Well, okay. Well, you're a very anomalous statistic, because most people wait until the very end of the year to put in their CPEs, and then they pay their AMFs as soon as they're due, right? And so what we did is we actually pulled a lot of that data, and we said, okay, how many times do people log in? When we need to pay our AMFs and when we need to put our CPEs in are the only 2 times that we typically see people log in.
Yeah.
So the ISC2 portal was extremely antiquated. You're talking, circa, probably 2008, 2009.
Yes.
And there's a lot of different systems. There's like 10, 15 different systems that, were all kind of cobbled together. And so this part of it was to basically bring all of the systems in together and be able to provide resources for ISC2 members. There's a new cyber range out where you can do a lot of your CPs online and do a lot of additional research and practice online. There's going to be social networking things that we can do to talk to folks that are other people, basically what benefits do you get as a ISC2 member that you didn't necessarily know before. So really kind of keep it to more of a central place for everything. So that's underway, well underway. They're working on that. I believe it's supposed to be at the end of this year or next year, at the beginning of next year, that it's going to be fully released, but it's going to be coming in waves. There's already been a lot of improvements on the site already, and the integration for that. So that's one big piece. Trying to think, the Q1 board meeting was really keeping all of the folks, getting all the folks up to date. So I have to go back to Q4 and think about what we were doing then to now what we're doing. So as far as strategy, I'm working on what are called micro designations. I'm going to be presenting it, I believe, at this board meeting where, let's just say you get a CISP, and I got a CISP when I first started off, but I could have went defense, offense, I could have went IR, I could have went other ways. And so there needs to be a way within an ISC2 and CISP to track what your expertise are. And so I'm working on micro designations where you can use your experience or certifications from other organizations to help you get other designations. Like, hey, I'm a CISP-IR, a CISP-offensive, with certain criteria based off of that, and then allow you to network with other people in those areas. So, on the site, you can be like, hey, all the CISP offensive folks, we can work together and build offensive chapters and things like that through ISC2, and really kind of help you on your career and people when you go through the interview process to kind of show that you have a lot more of that experience there. So a lot of work on that. Been doing a lot of that. We also implemented sunsetting, which is for certifications that are no longer relevant. There's a sunsetting process to look at, is the certificate still relevant? Do we need to sunset it and remove it? How do we handle that process? Because there wasn't a process before for it. So, a lot of work being done. We have meetings all the time to go through everything. We'll be in Hong Kong in a few weeks because some of the board members are, in Asia, some of the board members are in Europe, some of us are from here. So we try to balance it in all the different areas. But it seems like it's going well. I'm really happy with the team. And I'll say after this last phase, every board member that we have in this Q1 wants to get stuff done, and they're all on the same page, moving it forward, which is awesome. And the CEO, David Shear, is absolutely amazing.
Cool. So you were talking about sub certifications. Is this going to be in addition to like the concentrations of MP, EP, and AP?
Yes. And it's going to be specifically focused on like other certifications that you may have already. Like if you have an OSCE or OSCP or SAN certs, things like that you can leverage to be able to build your experience within ISC2 and your CISP, aside from those other, ones. So yeah, absolutely.
How are you reaching out to SANs and OffSec and those and trying to help figure out how you can better leverage those trainings?
Not yet. We're still in the what we call exploratory phase of it. And we wouldn't actually technically handle that. So the board handles what certifications are maintained and kind of the direction on the certifications. But as far as execution, that would go down to ISC2 then to start to build that out. So we are essentially the governance around the certifications themselves. And then from there, ISC2 as a whole, as an organization, goes in and does the implementation of that. So we're still in the exploratory phase of that. But I mean, I'm absolutely, definitely working with the different organizations to help that out. Yeah.
So you guys have a lot going on. I've just recently started getting involved with the CISSP Reddit over there, and so there's a bunch of people over there brand new. Some of them have had their CISPs for a while. There's their healthcare certs or whatever. If they wanted to help with any of the steering committees or anything like that, is there a process by which they can volunteer to help out with those kinds of things?
Yeah, definitely. So, we look for people outside of the board to also help out. It could be ISC2 members and non-ISC2 members as well. And so we actually have a number of folks that are on the committee, and we add them all the time. So I'd highly recommend reaching out to one of the board members. You can reach out to myself. And where you want to help out at. And definitely when we have our meetings, usually what happens is, before the board meetings themselves, we have a day, before then for that committee to meet and go over things, and it can be via conference call and others as well. So you have to go on site if you don't want to. But yeah, absolutely. You can reach at me. It's just dkennedy@isc2.org and put you in touch with the right folks.
Cool. Is there like a CFP or something on? I know you said you're trying to modernize the website, but is there a place where they can find that information to know if there's different committees they want to get involved with?
That's a good idea. And traditionally, no, like the committees themselves, are kind of instituted by the board of directors, and then from there, they're established Q1, and people can actually go to the Q1 board meeting too. At the beginning of it to go through everything, and actually if you wanted to go to Florida where it's at. But no, there's no specific place. That'd be a good place to actually put up on the site to say, hey, here's the committees if you want to help out or contribute. Usually the chair and the co-chair would select, additional members outside of the board to help out with that.
Okay. Mr. Betcher is a fellow CISP. Does he have any questions?
A couple of people asked me, do you, since you're involved in ISC2, is the test going to get a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging, maybe more realistic for the CISP?
It's a good question. So I was in that same category as well. Like, hey, let's make the CISP harder. And what's interesting about the CISP is there's actually writers now, and they've improved a lot on the quality of the tests and the questions. And the questions themselves have actually become significantly harder. But it is supposed to be a base knowledge test around, your bearing on the different domains and everything within the CISSP, right? Yep. And so, it's not supposed to be a OSCE or OSCP or a SANS, test. And what it's really supposed to do on top of that is be more of an ethics guidance for you in this industry to say, hey, I attest to the ethics of being an ethical hacker or being in the security industry and having ethics around for what we deal with. And then, hey, here's a base comprehension of knowledge. Now, they meet every year I think multiple times a year. I want to say every quarter, and they have different writers that actually focus on different tests to make them harder. That focus on the accuracy of the questions. That's been a new process, I think, as of 2 years. But I mean, you really probably only seen it probably maybe 6 months to a year ago, where those tests have actually become significantly harder from a question perspective, but also quality wise as well. So there is that process in place, and it is getting better over time. I don't get to see any of the questions, obviously, or anything like that. But I've heard from a lot of folks that have taken the test that someone just sent me recently. He's like, I don't know how you make a multiple choice test as hard as hell as you did, but you mission accomplished. So it is going to be a multiple choice question, test. But I mean, it is trying to understand your base knowledge of what's happening out there.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, all the answers are right, but which one's the most right?
Exactly right. And is it the CISP way, right? Is it ISC2, right?
Right.
Very cool. All right. So I just wanted to get an update because every time I get somebody from ISC2 on, I want to hit that up. So last thing, Derbycon. So excited. We're actually planning some stuff here like we did last year for the show. We're gonna work on our CTF and make it better. Like people can get tickets. Tickets go on sale like a couple hours after we purchase them. Is that how that works?
Tickets go on sale Derby Day, which let me see what the date is offhand here. It's been funny because Martin has been wanting this day for his entire life, and I always mess it up somehow. So this year I got it right. And tickets are going on sale May 6th. The time hasn't been announced yet, but usually it's around noon. And if I say it's going to be noon, I usually open it up like 2 or 3 hours earlier. So
don't tell people
open ahead of time.
Dang.
I know. You can't be F5 in it. I'm not gonna let you F5 it.
I have my alarm set for like 6 a.m. And I make sure I'm up and looking at this stuff because I never want to not have a ticket. They sold out in less than a day the last time, so
they did. Yeah, and obviously we want everybody to be able to come to Derbycon, but we're in full plan mode right now. And as you can see, the website just got redesigned. We are fully planning all of everything that's going on. The Martin actually talking to me right now because he's mad at the whole band thing that I concocted. So he's every time I call him, he's like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey, buddy." Yeah. Hey, he's like, "I'm still trying to figure out how you do your effing band thing." I'm like, "Okay."
That's your job. Go figure it out.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Is it? Can I announce it yet? He's like, no, I can't figure this out. I gotta go hanging light here and whatever. I'm like, all right, Martin, no, figure it out, man, please.
Nice.
So we can't announce the band yet. We're close. And if it doesn't work out, we have fallbacks on that one. But I mean, we've been really working on this one hard. It is possible that the Saturday party could be somewhere else, just based on size and what we need to do with it. But
you guys had fire marshal issues last year, from what I heard.
No, I don't think we have any fire marshal issues.
No. Okay.
No.
Cool.
No.
All right.
But I mean, we just want to make sure that the stage can support the show that we're trying to put on, and obviously, Derbycon is known for its shows, and we want to make it even better this year. So
is it Blue Man Group?
Yes.
Is it Weird Al?
Yes.
Is it Weird Al?
Way better.
Weird Al.
Way better.
It's cool.
I'm not confirming or denying anything, man.
You can't get any better than Weird Al.
Dang it. All right. So I have another question. So we're gonna do our CTF, and we had a raffle like we did. I don't know if we're gonna do the raffle again this year, but so one of the things I hear about Derbycon is that the LobbyCon is very, very excellent, and a lot of people will just get a hotel room and then just come to LobbyCon and not see the talks. Maybe you can talk to what they're missing out by not buying the tickets and going to the talks.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at the talks that we have every year, there's some fantastic talks. I mean, I go in afterwards after it's all been over with, and I still review them and watch them based off of content. Uh-huh. And Derbycon's one of the few conferences that I actually sit down and go through and listen and watch conferences. Now, granted, I'm going crazy, busy when I'm doing it all. I can see every talk that I want to. But I mean, you really miss a lot of the bonding with the folks around there that are at the talks, what's happening inside the conference itself. But mostly when we build the talks, we have such a good balance between offense, defense, and everything else in between. That I think it's really a unique mixture. 144 speakers, and at a given time, there's 5 tracks, 5 tracks going at a given time, and you can literally pick what you want to go to based off of those talks. There's always something to do. So I mean, LobbyCon's great. You know, we recommend it too, just to be able to hang out with folks. But you're missing a lot of the cutting edge talks that are out there. Some of the really good stuff.
Excellent. All right. Does anybody have any other questions or anything for Mr. Kennedy?
No, I agree with you on the LobbyCon. I mean, you meet after their talk with the speaker, and what?
Don't say that. Don't say that. Can't believe you put that in chat. You can't with that mouth.
Hey, I managed to not laugh out loud until
I saw you giggling. I'm like.
So filthy. That's so filthy. Great. We just lost our PG rating. It's all over. No,
hey, people listening can't see chat.
That's
no
true.
One can see that chat. Just leave it there.
That's right. We don't do video chat, thankfully. Oh, thank God we don't do video chat. Anyway, so yeah, DEF CON is my black hat, I like to say. It's the one I like to go to because it's still quite intimate and I can hang out with people. And
you mean Derbycon? You said DEF CON.
Yeah, well, it's late here too.
I was like, it's still intimate. I'm like, yeah, 25,000 people.
Yeah. No, Derbycon is my black hat, is my DEF CON because it was the first one I ever really went to that was like, one of the big ones, and I still enjoy doing it. And I'm glad you guys are going to be moving to a bigger venue because I'm sure that will allow you to be more flexible in how you want to do things.
And just so everybody knows what that, like this year is our last year at the Hyatt, so it's still at the Hyatt. Next year we'll be at the Marriott, and it is a larger venue. There's 2 big ballrooms instead of 1. But our goal isn't to grow it to a DEF CON, right? We may add a little bit of people, but it's to give more space to everybody so that you're not crammed so tight into the locations, because it has gotten to be popular. So it's to provide more space than it is anything else.
That's cool. That's very cool. All right. So if busy man that you are, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to discuss? I know you mentioned your ISC2 email, but is there other better ways of getting a hold of you?
Email is usually the easiest. You can always find me on Twitter, on social media and everything else. I mean, I'm always responsive on Twitter. So if you hit me up on there, I'm always hitting. You can always email me at my ISC2 account. Yeah. I mean, I always try to respond to everybody as much as I possibly can. I really try to help people still. I mean, it's, get busy.
Man, I was going to ask you how you do it because I'm having a hard time now, and it's.
Well, once you get on this podcast,
I think that's what it was. It bumped me up to like elite status.
So I was this almost happened to me yesterday, but I resisted. So Dave, have you ever tweeted, posted, or messaged in the shower? Like,
what?
Do you
messaged all the time?
Are you so busy that you just can't get away for 10 minutes, right?
It depends on how busy I am at that time, but yes, I have absolutely taken showers while getting things done on the phone, like tweeting or Facebooking or getting emails off or on a conference call. I've done conference calls in the shower. No bullshit.
Wow.
That's impressive.
I have not crossed that threshold yet, but I'm close.
Well, listen, you don't want to stink the rest of the day, and you only have, like 15 minutes before you got to be out the door, and then you have conference calls the rest of the day, or, you're on, you go catching a flight or something. So literally, you say your thing, you put it on mute real quick, you lather up really fast, and then you turn the water off so they can't hear anything, and then you start talking again, and then you got a couple seconds, you turn it back on again, I got that down. I got down to the science. I've taken like 5 or 6 conference call showers.
Yeah, I can imagine. We've you take a phone call, you got to mute it, make sure you flush, and then
I do that all the time.
So you can
answer
the question.
Bathroom conference calls all the time.
Yeah.
That's like almost every day. Oh yeah. There was actually a funny story. So I was on a call with one of my guys, Ryan. He's in sales. He's like, hey, we're at this Mexican restaurant. It's like 12 o'clock and a real busy time. And Ryan's like, hey, can you be on this call at 1? I'm like, yeah, it should be no problem or whatever. And he's there too. And like our food's not coming out. It's like 12:57 and we just got our food. And so Ryan's like, hey, you know what? I'll stall for like 10 minutes. Why don't you just finish up eating and pay and everything? So I'm like, all right, cool. So he's like, but just dial in first and introduce yourself. And then, so I'm like, all right, that's fine. I can go around the corner real quick, and say, hey, this is Dave, and then put on mute and then, pay and everything for the team and all that good stuff. So I'm there with the entire team at Binary. And, so like Ryan goes on and he's talking for like literally 30 seconds. And I got on mute. I'm eating and everything. I just gotten the check. And he's like, all right, Dave, so why don't you kick it off and start doing? I'm like, what? And I'm in the middle of this packed place, and it's like a windy tornado storm outside. So there's nowhere for me to go that's safe. And so I go outside, run outside, leave my credit card behind. I completely forget about it. I go outside. I'm in this like wind tunnel. I'm trying to like tuck away in the tiny like crevice of this hole to start talking. And then when I have a second, I mute it again, hoping that Ryan was going to take it over again. So I go around the corner, like I get a block away, and I'm like 6 blocks away from Binary. So I get a block and I have to go back into a corner again and start talking again. And then I mute it again and then go 1 more block and then have to talk again. It was a nightmare. And then so then it just got worse from there. So I didn't realize I left my credit card and I had to fly to San Francisco and I only have 1 credit card on me. And I go to get my rental car and they won't effing take, debit cards because I left my credit card at the Mexican restaurant. So I have no credit card. So then I'm Ubering it everywhere. And it was an absolute train wreck. So yeah,
Ryan needs some rubber hose cryptanalysis.
Ryan, you said 15 minutes. He's like, yeah, I totally forgot I said that. Sorry, I thought you were done. I'm like,
the military did teach us eat lunch in less than 15 minutes, but dang, dude.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was high stress, but no, I showers in the car. I've done it while inside of like a getting an exam. Like your yearly physicals.
Okay.
That doesn't matter.
Wow, excellent. Jeez.
It's like, Dave, are you okay? You're coughing on the other end.
Oh, I've been sick. Yeah. Is it awkward? Like you're like, whoa! Oh, sorry.
Oh my God! All right. Well, that's a side of Dave I haven't thought about. Okay.
Take your clothes off and put on this gown.
Oh, you've never thought about.
Yeah. Wow.
All right.
Well, Dave, we're gonna let you go. It's almost midnight your time. We're just gonna, talk about our CTF club and our book club and stuff on our Slack channel. So please have a good night, sir.
Yeah, back at you. And apologies for being late to the podcast. My bad on that one.
No, it's okay, sir. It's totally understand.
Thanks for everything you guys do, and guys and gals do for doing the podcast and always getting the message out there. So I appreciate you as well.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, man.
Have a good night.
Bye. See you later.
Good night.
Bye.
I hate that
All
guy.
right.
He's so
Man, such a jerk.
What a jerk store.
Never happy.
Complete jerk store. Yeah. All right. Well, that was Dave. I'm glad he finally was able to get on. I'm sorry we got him out of bed for it, but I think that was.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people ever.
Yeah, I like him. I look forward to giving him much awkward hugs at Derby. So since I screwed up the name, like I'm an idiot. So yeah.
Make sure you wear really tight shirts at Derbycon.
Yes.
Look, I'm telling you, it's
Wear
shrunk
that
in the
one.
wash, and I'm naturally very muscular.
For those of you that aren't watching.
Yeah. I'm very naturally muscular, and it's shrunk in the wash. So yeah. So let's talk about some Slack stuff, because Slack is kind of taken off for us. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, some of the things that have started, I'm starting my Slack channel now, because if you guys hear any Slack notifications,
I was going to do the same thing.
Yeah. So some of the stuff we started in the last week, we've got a new malware channel. So if you have malware, you want to do some discussions on malware, you can get in there. A couple people who are of note in there. We've had Tyler Hudak come on and talk about some malware stuff. We've also got Matt Domko, who you heard at B-Sides Seattle Audio, talking about we talk about malware infections, we talk about malware theory, we talk about all kinds of stuff in there. We started a DFear channel, so if you are into digital forensics and incident response stuff, we've got some stuff going on there. Our CTF club's going strong. We've got what level of Natas are we on right now? Like 16-ish?
16, I believe.
Okay.
I'm 16.
But as we've seen that, you don't even have to be caught up to be involved with that, and to put some information out there. If you have anything to contribute, that's great. Our book club will start on the 19th of March, so you've got enough time to get the ebook of that, which it's only in ebook format right now. It's a little book that Miss Amanda and Mr. Lee Brotherston, Miss Lee Brotherston. Oh, he's gonna flay me. Oh my god. Well, he's imported by artists. Screw him.
I know, right?
Lee Brotherston. We're actually supposed to have him on next week with Miss Berlin to talk about the book. So we're gonna definitely have that as a thing. But yeah, it starts 19 March. It's available by ebook on O'Reilly. Unfortunately, Amanda gave away all of her free or reduced price codes at Black Hat and DEF CON last year, so we can't get any more.
Yeah, I had given one to my son because he wanted to take it in and like show his friends. And I asked for it back, and he can't find it because I know you can reuse the code. So if you can find anybody that has one still,
okay,
you can reuse it. But I don't have any more.
Yep. Mr. Betcher's, a big fan of the malware channel, so he just joined that today. So he's in there, talking about the malwares and stuff. So he's gonna help out with some stuff in the near future, I'm sure, when he can spare some time. So
if you guys have any questions or whatever, I think these Slack channels are a great resource for collaboration.
Oh yeah,
you get people on who've may have been there, may have done that before, and helping out everybody.
Yeah, of course our general channels are most popular. We have 222 people in there.
I know.
What happened? I mean, obviously all 222 aren't talking on there, but yeah. I'm
disappointed that 2 people that I've invited haven't joined.
Well, maybe they haven't listened to the show yet and know that you're not on there, because I'm getting
right.
That a lot,
yeah,
so.
Could be.
Yeah. Mr. Betcher made one of his rare posts in the general tab. That's nice. Oh, so you're probably like, well, Brian, shut up and tell us how to get on here. So if you want to join us on Slack and talk about all kinds of stuff on there, you can hit us up at https breaksec.signup.team. And basically you just put your name and information and email in there, and then our Slack bot, affectionately known as Slackbot, will send you an email with a link to be able to join. So it's very simple, and the only rule we have is don't be a dick. I will permaban you with
just like in life.
That's right. If you are a dick, I will permaban you. I don't care who you are. I wield my power with an iron fist. So yeah, that's a big thing for us. Join us in the book club, and we'll be doing that next week. So you can buy the book and whatever.
I did just find out the physical copy is supposed to be out April 17th.
April 17th
is when it will be. I think it's when it will be shipping.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
That's when it actually.
So you can get the Dead Tree version a few days after that. Then I would imagine if you bought it on the 17th. So.
Yep.
So we do have a Patreon. So if you don't have to support us at a large amount. If you just want to throw us $1 to help offset some of the costs, buy Amanda a cup of coffee or 3, so she can stay awake.
Yeah.
To be fair, it is almost midnight your time, so I'm not gonna. It's okay.
I get to sleep in tomorrow though. No kids, nothing to do.
That's nice. If anybody knows her phone number, please call her at about 8 a.m.
I will have my phone shut off all day tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So
sorry, nobody calls. I only talk to you two.
Oh,
I don't.
That sucks.
It's a sad life.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any other thoughts? Did I put anything else in the Slack channel, CTF book club? We are working on, like we mentioned during the show with Mr. Kennedy, we are working on some stuff for Derbycon. We're going to try to do a CTF again. We're working on another training that we might be giving. We might have some training, yes. We're on the way. We're in the exploratory phases of some trainings that some people have agreed to work with us on. So that's working. That's going to be in the next. We'll have it firmed up probably by next week. I'm hoping that we can get the logistics and announce that formally. But yeah, keep your eyes open for that. And if you're on Slack, you'll be able to see it a lot. So let's end this show. So Miss Amanda, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to get a hold of you?
On all social media at InfoSystir, INFOSYSTIR.
So that's like Tumblr, MySpace,
right?
Chat
everywhere.
Chat roulette, yeah.
I don't think I don't think you have usernames on Chat Roulette, do you?
Well, I would hope not, because it's supposed to be anonymous. When I mean,
Right.
when I've heard.
Uh,
Yeah. Mr. Betcher, as always, sir, it's great to see you. How would people get a hold of you as well?
On Twitter, my handle is @BetcherPwned.
And on Facebook, you are not there.
Not.
Anyway, yeah.
No.
So,
I'll add you on Facebook, but only if I've met you in real life.
yeah, that's true. So, Dave Kennedy, of course, the massive Dave Kennedy. You can find him at Hacking Dave on Twitter. You know, he's been posting a lot of stuff. You can also see him on media outlets. He actually does the news stuff. So he was on Fox News, like you said, and he does some CNNs and whatever. So, you know,
MSNBCs.
the MSNBCs, yeah. Our show podcast, if you just want to follow the podcast on Twitter, is at Breaksec, BRAKESEC. You can follow me at Brian Brake, BRYANBRAKE. We're on iHeartRadio. We just got put on iHeartRadio, so if you are a fan of the iHeartRadios app, we're on there now. We're also on TuneIn Radio, Player.fm. We have an RSS feed if you want to find that. www.breakingsecurity.com is our website. It looks like crap, but I don't want to do anything to fix it. I've tried, and I hate HTML. I do, you know, and I don't really want to pay somebody just to put some fancy stuff in there. So I'm like, I can leave it this way, or, you know, I guess I can take some time to get into Libsyn and put their proper templates up or whatever. But yeah, we're all over the place on there. So yeah, that was it. I think this week, great show. I'm glad we were able to get Dave on and talk about this. So next week, yes, unless something massively changes, it'll be Amanda and Mr. Lee talking about the book, Defensive Security Handbook, on O'Reilly. So check that out. We'll have a link in the show notes to that for the ebook. So that was it for Breaking Down Security this week. Everyone have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, wow. That was
Yay.
awesome.
That was pretty good.
I was like talking to Dave about the ISC2 stuff because I think it definitely needs to be put out there. I know some people listen to the show for CPEs and stuff, and it kind of matters. So I wanted to talk about the ISC2 stuff. So, which is good. I didn't know you could actually like volunteer for steering committees and such too. So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
pretty neat.
anybody did.
yeah. Yeah, I hope they modernize that website pretty damn soon because submitting CPs is always painful. So.
That's why I don't have my CISP, because I
Well, that's
don't
why
wanna-
that's why everybody's like they log in to pay and they log in to put.
No,
in
I don't want to
140
pay for a cert, and I don't want to have to keep track of CPs.
Well, between the SANS courses I take and going to Derbycon, that's my 40 for the year. Actually, I always end up with like 150 for the year, which is 30 more than I need for the 3-year period. So, and we're recording. Can I get a sound check?
Test, test, test.
Yep, looks good. Okay.
Oh man, my bell's in my closet.
That's awesome. I don't have a belt. Shit. Man. That's awesome.
You'll have one of those old bicycle horns.
I could rip the one off my wife's bike. That might work.
There you go.
Yeah.
She'll never notice.
All right. Oh, yeah. Before we start, close thy slacks. You're going to...
Sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It shows I'm not a psychopath, that I'm empathic, that,
Yes, right.
So, yeah, it's...
Something like that.
See, Mr. Betcher, he's a psychopath because he doesn't yawn when other people yawn. So, that's how you know he's a psychopath.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. This is all
Cat's
good.
out of the bag.
I thought we knew that
Ooh.
before.
Cat's out of the bag. Yes, Mr. Betcher's the psychopath. Anyway, all right. Let's do this. In 3, 2, 1. That'd be the toilet. That'd be the turlet. That's the turlet. I share the common,
I couldn't hear it.
Oh, you don't? No, you don't hear it either? Okay, it got me because somebody using the turlet. The bathroom's like right over there on the other side of that wall, so I can hear it. So obviously my little microphone thing can hear it as well. So, and we're waiting. That's nothing. When the dryer is on, it sounds like I've got like a level 10 Richter
Like
scale
you're
earthquake.
waiting for liftoff.
Yeah, shakes the whole flipping house. All right. In the 3, 2, 1.